Okay, I'm going to try this. I was requested yesterday. I still don't know. Is that correct English? I was requested. It was requested of me yesterday how to make this yarn. This is, in some sense, a lock spun. It is a core spun. I will be plying it back with a single that I dyed some fiber for. I just need to spin it up this afternoon. I don't know if this is the typical way others spin this type of yarn. You can chime in and tell me I'm doing it wrong, but it's how I get the look that I want. What I do is I take my locks that I dyed up, and I'm taking some tips and just pulling them off. And when I pull them off, what it does is it fuzzes out the bottom where it was connected to the fleece a bit. I may have to open it up a little bit more. Does that span? It does not span out. Okay, so what I did is I just took a bunch, and usually I'm pretty careless about the whole process. I'm not trying to do perfect. It's not my personality. I wish I was more that way, but I'm not. Anyways, so here we go. I'm just pulling off locks. I could just fluff up the bunch, but I wanted some of these locks to show. And so if I get to a part that doesn't have any of the curly tips intact, I'm still going to use that. I'm just going to apply it in a little bit different way. So I'm going to show you right now how I do the locks. What I am using, trying to stay out of the camera, is 100% silk. This is a little fine yarn, so it's very decadent that I'm using this as a core yarn. But the reason why I like to use silk as a core yarn, or as a core single, whether I spin it or somebody else did. I got this from Kamaj Fibers, India. It's fair trade, so that makes me a happy camper. I like the silk because if you have to fuss with the yarn at all while you're working, it's not going to break. And lots of singles can break, and you can be putting this under a fair amount of tension, fiddling with it. So that's why I like to use silk as a core. I've used cotton crochet thread, and that works fine too, but it's not quite as pliable as the silk. So let me show you here. Let me change hooks so I can get this going. What I'm doing here is I take a lock and I lay the fuzziness of my lock around some of the fuzziness of the previous lock. And very loosely, I'm just letting this catch on to my cord. And little locks are sticking out. Now, if there was a part that didn't, I'll stop for a minute so you can see. If there was a part that didn't seem to get that much twist in it, I'll just stop for a minute, scrunch it up, and twist some more. Because what happens is sometimes, because the silk underneath isn't particularly grippy, the locks don't necessarily want to grip to it. So I try to get them gripping to the lock before itself. But this is a very haphazard way of spinning, and it's kind of hard for you to see this actual spinning part of it when you have to change locks, hooks quickly or often when you're doing such a bulky yarn. The reason why this is such a fun yarn and looks so very cool is because there is no organization to it, in my mind. Other people would not like it, and I'm fully aware of that. So if you think it's horrible, no offense taken. I think it's peculiar that people want to write and say things are horrible, but whatever floats your boat. So there you go. I'm going to take just a wad so you can see how I do a wad. Let me see if I can move. I'm on my phone. This is absolutely not a professional setup here. Okay. And I've got my core yarn or thread. Sometimes I just use sewing thread if I know I'm going to be very gentle with it because the mohair itself is quite strong. The mohair isn't going to break, but the thread beneath, I just don't want to have to restart things. Okay, my Sculpey hooks are working quite well. That's a fun thing. Okay, let me build up some twist here again. And now I'm just going to take some fuzz and let it catch on. And it may take a little bit of twisting to catch on. And then I'm just going to drag it down. And there you can see this fun bit. Let me take some more. This is really fuzzed out, not much in the way of locks. So I'll show you how I'm doing that. I'm gonna, like before, catch it on. And I'm looking at my yarn. Probably it would be good if I was looking at the phone too. And I'm not gonna, I'm gonna hold the fiber at this angle from the thread so that it can wrap loosely and give me more texture. Everything is done loosely in my way of course spinning because I like to secure it with another ply. It's just me, and everybody doesn't do that, but I like a secure yarn when I'm knitting. I don't want to have to worry about things, and if I end up selling it, I don't want to have to worry about anybody saying, oh, some of my locks came off or whatever. And I'm not going to go back and needle felt this because I don't want to lose any of the loose bubbliness of the locks. So see, that's what it looks like when I'm trying to get a better angle of it. That's what it looks like when I'm just doing loose little curls catching on to my thread. In this case, and in most cases with me, it's going to be either a fine crochet yarn. It could be a button thread because that's firm, but it tangles up easier when you're working with a fine yarn or crochet cotton, something like that. It doesn't tangle on itself as easy, and that's a pain in the neck when you want to just keep going. I go for the path of least resistance when it comes to most everything I do. And definitely, well, not definitely. If I went to path of least resistance with spinning, it would mean buying comb topped instead of raising sheep. But I do like spinning novelty yarn occasionally because it gets me out of my, I call it comfort zone. Anybody else might call it a rut. I like the zen feeling of just spinning a little even yarn straight from my washed fleece. To me, that's very cathartic. But I'm going to be doing a show and need to be have a variety of things available. So now what I'm doing is, this is a fluffier part. I'm holding this actually very close to the core thread and letting it catch on and just kind of sliding it up like you would what? I'm trying to think, how would you describe it? Like if you were making a boucle, you're wrapping, you're just letting, I'm just letting it lay across the thread and scrunching it up so that there's no, it's not, before it's wrapped around the thread within the twist, I'm laying it next to I'm loosening up some more fiber here. I'm laying it next to the single, just like almost perpendicular to it, and then scrunching it up as I go. And that's really fun. It gives you a big poofy yarn. You may not see as much lock definition, but it's a fantastic yarn. So there you go. I hope that showed people a little bit, and I am going to ply it. I might make a video of that if you're interested. And that's the first round of me putting my locks onto a core. And I will go back now. I'll make my single, and then I'll apply it on itself. And the reason why I made my single instead of using a yarn is because I dyed it in the same manner I dyed the mohair, because I wanted it to blend in. Using anything other than silk or wool core or for the plain skein, if that's what you choose to do, is going to end up showing. So if you're going to dye after the fact, you'll want to use a natural fiber so it can dye those threads and not become an obvious looking thread. Or you're going to want to dye the fiber that you spin for those threads prior to, if you're using dyed locks, so that it blends in. Nothing wrong with your thread showing. Lots of people do it. It's just not something that I wanted to do. So there you go. One more little pass. Usually what I do is then I make a thinner yarn for a while. Just a lot thinner. Just dragging the fiber down in not a locky fashion, because I want to have some yarn available for casting on that isn't quite so loopy. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. So it's going to be the same fiber, and it's going to be a little bit loopy-ish, but not near as much as the rest of the bobbin. So I won't need to ply on too much in this, because I think this is going to be a sample scarf for my yarns that I sell at a show. But here I'm just taking a little bit of the mohair and making a little bit fluffy, whatever, single, so that, not single, it's not, what am I saying that? But I guess it's a core single, I don't know, whatever, I guess not single. But I'm making it quite a bit finer so I can cast on and see my stitches initially, and I just think it makes it easier for people to analyze the finished item, see what they're getting. Okay, there you go. And it gives me, yeah, it tells me where I want to start my project. I usually start and stop a novelty skein with a little bit of less eccentric stuff. That way, if there's anything that I want to spotlight, it doesn't get lost. Okay, there you go. Hope that works for you.